because I live also with dancers here in the house, as
Oh, dope.
immersive as an experience as an artist as I find it.
Does that
Um,
make you crazy ever, like being with dancers all the time?
I think so, I think sometimes, deep down when you're sharing bookings and you're sharing projects, you see, especially when you get a really good project or something come through. I think for any artist, it's a learning curve to celebrate your fellow artists. And I
Yeah.
think even all of us on our freelance journey, we have moments of insecurity. We have moments where we have the privilege of our own booking to really celebrate. But it's a lesson living with other artists. It's a lesson
Yeah.
in the fact that being an artist makes you different, just like being a tradesman gives you rough hands. Like if there is a byproduct to what we do, and it changes our mind. And the more I exist in dance and around artists, the more I go back home and realize, oh, I'm this is changing me, and it's changing my outlook, because my creative brain is in practice all of the time. And
Mm.
other things that are really, really commonly practiced in the real world aren't being so practiced. So it's really interesting to feel the maturity as I grow and as I become aware of what it is really, really is to be and to live as an artist, and how that
Mm.
changes your interpretation of general reality, even going to the shops, interacting with strangers,
Mm.
seeing something that captivates you. It's all a different set of things. The more and more I've been doing dance for 8 years, I've been a professional.
Mm.
From my training, that's like 11 years, 12 years I've been here in London as a freelancer just doing dance. And to think that that doesn't have an aberrant effect on you in relation to the general population, would be
Mm.
short-sighted. So it's an interesting journey.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Even just practically speaking, like I often think about that when in rehearsal or on stage. It's kind of a bizarre situation, and in no other job does someone go like, "Hey, you should come to my workplace and watch me work."
I know.
And then tell me what you thought of my work afterwards. There's no,
Clap,
yeah,
clap.
nobody's going to their friend's accountancy office and going like, wow, dude, the way you did those accounts, I don't know anything about accountancy, but you were doing it well.
At that point, they turn around and they just give you a big bow. Thank you so much. Thank you. Prayer hands, prayer hands, prayer hands.
Thanks.
Thank
Prayer hands, fire emoji, fire
you.
emoji.
One on the chest. This is for
uh,
you. Yeah, no, it's so funny. It's so funny, actually. I talked a lot about my with my peers and with young dancers about that, and about the kind of the changing effect that having applause and doing something that's so self-practiced and delving into the self so often to find a place to do some movement or to inhabit a character. And really, there's a lot of narcissistic practice within what we do. And I think if you don't in your own life have something outward that is you serving and purely just being, I
mm,
think dance can really it's not gonna completely mess you up. It's not like really, really bad. But I think I meet some people in the dance world, you see that they're just a little bit lost in their own performance, and their own everything that they're experiencing is going through this kind of like filter of the self, rather than going, actually, let me drop what I'm experiencing and focus on you. It's just not something that we practice, in the same way that, let's say, one of the superheroes on the front line of the NHS would be practicing every day, serving somebody, or somebody who's working in an industry that is really caring and supporting the community and the world around us. Of course, we offer a service, but it comes from this place of self. So I always try and keep my mind on something that is outward from me, because to be balanced as an artist, I think is to be prepared to do anything, to do not just dance, but to take what is inside somebody's head and actualize it in the real world, which is really what I see more as my job description than, a formally trained dancer who's walking on to give you a set of moves or a set of improvisations or choreography.
mm,
It's more that there is an idea that I can see in a director or a choreographer's head that we just want to make that real. And actually learning that dance is a smaller part than often the dancer thinks it is, in terms of the lighting, either film or the audience, the proscenium arch, all of these different things, the costume, they play a massive role in bringing this dish together. And dance is one of the ingredients. And once I truly realized that, I invested in a project in a different way. It wasn't so much welcome and here is my dancing and here's what I have to offer. It's
Right.
an observation of something that is being created, and actually the best times to invest your creative ideas and energy into that. Because sometimes, especially when I'm creating a piece with a company for live touring, I hear an incredible idea in the studio, an incredible piece of imagery or emotional stance to kind of project from, and it just gets lost in the creative, like, ether. The timing of the idea and when it was said wasn't quite right. The choreographer was distracted and the rest of us were. So a brilliant idea has just gone kind of like thump over there, because we're just already still distracted on maybe a technical issue or someone being off on the counts. And so I think on a project, sometimes to find that timing to go, oh wow, this is a great idea, I need to say it, isn't really the time. Maybe to have that great idea and go, actually, I might wait for a moment when we're starved for creativity, then, deploy my idea and actually have the chance to stop the room and exercise what this idea is. So, yeah.
I think, you bring up an important thing as well, that I think the attitude's so crucial also, just like for your own sanity. And like you say, it also in keeping it off your view of dance and what dance is doing off yourself, then it helps also you not be so self-critical, which is something most dancers have struggled with in some form, because you're just focused on what the dance is doing rather than like what it means for you or how you're being perceived so much. As well as the humility aspect, I think. And I also think that if you're going to have a career in dance, it's really good to have a why beyond just I enjoy dancing. Because, and for me, this is partially where I sort of draw a distinction between sort of loving something and having a passion for it. I think, love may be all the feelings there, but with passion, there's also the purpose, it's kind of love plus purpose. And I think for dance, it's important to enjoy it, absolutely, but also to have a thing of what am I trying to accomplish here? What am I trying to accomplish for not just myself, but for maybe the dance world, for audiences, for the kids that I teach, for all these different things. What am I doing here? What am I trying to accomplish? And I think that's helpful. And I think for me personally, over the years, there's times when the dance industry's, quite tough, but having that purpose and going, and there's moments when it's obviously not enjoyable, and there's just some hustle and grind that comes with it. And having like a purpose of like, actually, I'm doing a good thing here, and this is where I'm feeling like fulfilled, not just on that like this is fun level, but also on that like, hey, this is meaningful work. Which I think is something that is, occasionally missed, that, dance can be very, very meaningful and very rewarding work to do. I think it's a great point that you bring up.
There's nothing like working on a project that you really, really see is going in the right direction. And, also being aware of when a project is kind of like maybe taking a slight downslope, or the dynamic in the studio is creating a bias within the piece that you can so blatantly see, and the audience is about to see that, and you're kind of going, okay, well, maybe I'll just get all of my bits together so I know I'm doing a good show. But it's so amazing what your perspective is, because it's very similar to mine. I always say to the young ones, I say, dance, it's not, you're never going to last if you're just like, I love it and I'm so passionate. Everyone, I think even the public have this conception that we're all just running around in love with dance. And I just think it's such a weird kind of cartoonish imagery. I always invite you know, young dancers to go, okay, look, if you really love dance, love it like your mum, you know. I don't wake up
Mm,
and jump out of bed every day and go, mother, I love you, you know. I don't
yeah.
start and song and dance about my mum. Like, I have tough dates with my mum, I have arguments with my mum, I have moments where I'm like, mum, just could, you know.
Mm,
It's, but I know in my heart that we have a relationship that is something real, and it's gonna, you know, obviously we're contractually obliged through what we've been
mm,
through to be in life. So I think to have that flexible relationship with dance, like those wobbly buildings that kind of shake in earthquakes, you know, when the ground starts to shake, you'll move with it and you'll go, okay, this is the natural frustration. But
mm,
there's also an occupation here. I think growing up in dance, I think doing dance as a young 21 year old, I'm 29 years old now. I think doing it as a 21 year old, 22-year-old, it's very easy to be hip. It's very easy to be in the world and to be young and to be free. But as you grow in the dance world, you become a lot more aware. And with that awareness comes some insecurity and some kind of like questions in terms of, wow, what can I actually do with dance and life? Like what happens when I want to buy a house? What happens when I want to have
mm,
kids and really elevate? And these things that are so easy to do when you have a 9 to 5 with this set salary.
mm,
It's extremely, you know, easy to kind of structure life and to know where your leverage is and financially know what you can leverage and everything like that. As a freelance dance artist, it's taken me a lot of years to lay down the groundwork and network to get solid work coming in a predictable manner, so I can then predict things in my personal life a little bit better. And I
mm.
think that's something that is not taught at all in conservatoires and in dance training, because
Yeah.
quite frankly, I get it. It would scare so many people.
Mm.
Like that moment where you walk out of training into the dance world, if that moment isn't fraught with loads and loads of ignorance and kind of like just
Yeah.
gusto, you know, like if that moment was
Mm,
filled with the awareness that I have now of what it actually takes,
mm,
yeah, you would fear it a lot more. But some
yeah.
part of the ignorance of which you approach dance and the raw talent you have mixed with the work ethic you have, if these ingredients are right and the ratios are right at the beginning, you will tend to go down this pathway, you know, you will tend to kind of stick with it. But I see so many people fall by the wayside.
Yeah. 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 I
Yeah.
think it's so before I did dance, I did a contemporary art and philosophy degree, and kind of similarly as a part of that was a little bit frustrated with the lack of preparation. And one of the things that I felt that um, we really that I wish they were more honest about, and also like I would say this is true pretty much at all the art forms that I've sort of looked at and sort of track, is that generally speaking, if you are on a decent trajectory, for most people it'll probably take about 5 years to be reasonably part-time, after graduating, and probably 10 years to be full-time. And I've seen that true. You know, there is some exceptions to that rule, but I find that generally is a good kind of expectation to have. Whether you're a dancer, I see that true for painting and sculptors. That's true for writers. You know, most writers take about 10, 15 years before their first novel is published. For comedians, most comedians take about 10, 15 years
Mm,
before, you know, they basically are profitable. As you kind of say, often they're just going into debt those first few years. And I just wish this was just conveyed more, just because then otherwise you come out and you go, oh, I'm not working, I'm a failure.
I,
And not
it,
realizing that actually you're probably actually on what is considered a normal trajectory, and actually you just kind of need to stick it, and figuring out how to you know, as you say, how to balance things and how to do those practical things as well. I think most dance artists figure out how to have multiple careers.
yeah.
You know, I'm one of those as well. I have a second career in PR market research, working with brands, and that sort of helps me pay my bills in between doing dance work. But I think you're absolutely right, because I think if we set those expectations early on, I think dancers probably wouldn't be like, oh, I'm not
Tumbleweed.
full-time in a company when after I just graduated.
There'll be tumbleweed in the conservatoires.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
blowing through. No, it's yeah, it's really, really crazy, isn't it? Like applying that career to
Mm,
dance and understanding when to make that switch in a way, and how long to nurse that creative incubation. And it's a lifelong journey, really. It's a
mm,
lifelong journey. The more you develop as an artist and become, I found a direct link between my experiences in life and my level of consciousness, and then my ability to empathize in the space. These things are so
mm,
crucial in a creative space, is to be able to look at yourself and kind of look at yourself in the most objective way you possibly can, just so you can see for a second your own biases, and then step back into your biases with like a new awareness. And
yeah.
it's such a crazy journey of understanding yourself. And the second you understand these layers of yourself, you also understand how to approach your craft differently. And I think a lot of, like you say, comedians, musicians, rappers, they're just on that journey of like trying to just find what their voice is, or trying to find what their language is. I meet so
Mm,
many people in dance, and they're just trying to find like their new way of moving, or then their
yeah.
style. And it's like, it's so beautiful to witness. And yeah, I think also there's a lot of privilege in the art world, and I think that needs to be also talked about, is that there
Hmm.
are a lot of people who are invested in the dance world who can afford to kind of just do a dance degree and then go back to, I don't know, the law degree that they had before, or the family that was really, really supporting them. You see a lot of privilege in the arts.
Mm,
And I was raised in a really rough council estate in the UK, and I was really born in this kind of amazing space with so many different characters around me, and such a
mm.
different British working class culture around me. And my mum was first generation, I'm second generation Sri Lankan, and
Oh, dope.
my dad was from the UK. So I experienced all of the kind of racism and love and poverty and victims of circumstance in that world. So when I stepped into the dance world, I really had a different set of experiences and had a different perspective to a lot of the people that I was meeting, especially at uni, and especially when I was training. And it was a massive culture shock to come into the arts world. And then once I
Hmm.
settled down, I realized that actually those experiences I had make me so much more well adjusted to deal with subject matter as I
Yeah.
experienced in the choreographic world or the
And to
drama.
just deal with adversity in general as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll ask you a bit more about that in a second. Let me introduce. We'll keep all of this in, of course, but I'll introduce you and talk to the audience first. Hello, lovely dance people, and welcome to David's Dance Podcast. I'm your host, David Evans. We have an incredible artist today joining us. He's a dance artist, an actor, a model. He's with the esteemed Jasmin Vardimon Company. In addition to working with Jasmin Vardimon, he's also worked with Tom Dale, James Wilton Company, Avant-Garde recently as well. He's a incredibly talented interdisciplinarian. I just love the way that this guy moves. I think he accomplishes something in his dance that is quite difficult, in that he is able to move in a way that is both highly technical, but is very free and loose, and open in expression and passionate even. And I just love the way that he brings things together and in just one body. I think is amazing. We are so pleased to welcome to the podcast Josh Smith. Josh, welcome.
That was such an amazing welcome. Thank you so much. And hello, everybody. Yeah, oh, that's warmed my heart. Thank you. And it's so nice.
Good. It's so nice to have you on, dude. Yeah, it's I met you in one of your classes that you did, and was just hooked on the way that you move. And you also kind of have a background in kind of contemporary, but also breakdance and things as well. I'm also kind of a mixed styles dancer with background contemporary, breaking, and salsa. So anytime I see other kind of cross cross training dancers, I get really excited, and yeah, it's just really great to have you on.
My pleasure.
Before we jumped in, we were talking about working being sort of maybe a lack of support, sort of maybe an elitism in the dance world, and kind of, as you described, maybe elements of privilege. Are there ways in which you feel like dance could become more uh, friendly to the working class? I do think it has this issue both with on the training side for working class performers, but I think it also has this issue of being relevant to working class audience as well. I think, we're moving away from this kind of very London centric upper class audiences, and broadening that out to more regional based work we're seeing, and some work which is a bit more, which is more accessible and less esoteric. Yeah, what are your thoughts on it?
It's yeah, it's always a really interesting discussion, privilege and elitism in the arts
Mm,
world. I think every dancer out there knows what I mean when I say it. I think that elitism and that privilege, I think it needs to be there. I think it's the core demographic of the original theatre goers. I think way back when going to the theatre was such an extravagance. It still is an extravagance, but I think what I would like to impart on the working classes and the kind of majority of the British and the world's working classes and people who think theatre is inaccessible. I'd love to just show them some of the more up and coming choreographers and the more
mm,
kind of grassroots venues that are really, really putting out and creating these platforms that launch pieces into the larger stage and onto broad. There's this life that productions have before where they're getting on their feet and they're testing out the audience. And often that's where, you know, the elitist, more privileged side of dance that keeps in track of it. And, quite rightly so, they're very invested in the theatre industry, and they'll know those shows, and the kind of people, the general public at home, will see this kind of extremely extravagant cartoonized version of dance that they see on TV with
mm,
Strictly and So You Think You Can Dance and stuff, which are great examples and inspire so many people to dance, even Britain's Got Talent and things like that. But
mm,
I guess what they don't see is the kind of 360 degrees of art and an art movement within a city. When I go to London, it really has a language. When you're almost like tasting street food, it really
yeah.
has a language that's mixed with different cultures. And I go and I work in Berlin, and it has a completely different language, and
Mm,
Norway and Scandinavia has this really, really different language as well. So I'd love to just for it to be so mainstream, that just like music, everyone knows that they have their different, followings of dances and trends, because it's such a great thing to become a fan of, and it's
mm.
such a great thing to follow. I think human beings follow a lot worse examples in this world and in this day and age
Yeah,
of social media.
there's worse heroes to have.
Yeah, exactly. There's worse role models out there than some of the amazing superhero dancers that I
Yeah,
stand to and that I talk to on a day-to-day basis,
I
that
think
are
superhero is really it. Like that's what I would always say when I was like growing up. I'd just be like, dancers are my superheroes, especially like, yeah, like originally thinking about like b-boys and break dancers. Like one of the things that I love about dancers is that you look at a lot of dancers, and especially when they're, in their everyday clothes, you wouldn't necessarily know that that person could do such incredible things. I call it like, it's like the Clark Kent kind of Superman thing. They're just there with the glasses on, and just and they're not like rugby players or bodybuilders. It's not this sort of crazy body types, but then suddenly they start moving, and you go like, whoa, like, like, and they do all these incredible things, and these almost superhuman things sometimes. Yeah, it's that same kind of like, wow.
Yeah, it's really, really true. I mean, working with Jasmin Vardimon a lot, you know, that's her ethos, is kind of like, you know, we will be really working so hard, jumping up and down and dripping, but to the audience, with that level of separation, they don't, I think an audience member doesn't feel what you're going through. They more are invited to see the effortlessness and the way the stage holds the sound of your body hitting the ground, and the way the levels and everything of the sound effects and lights hide the kind of brutality of dance. What you end up seeing is this like effortless kind of like
Mm.
example of that superhero nature. So working with Yasmin's really, really great for that, because she's just constantly kind of putting us in these positions which are really, really athletic, but to the audience, they're just going, wow, it just feels like there's an engine inside this person going and going and going.
Mm. Yeah, the
So yeah,
physicality of her work is just like, yeah, incredible, I think. And yeah, I think you're really well suited to that as well, to
but it took
that
me a
feel.
while, you know, it took me a while.
Did it?
I took this different approach to the dance world when I came out of dancing. I didn't have that cat scheme background. I wasn't dancing since I was a kid. I picked it up when I was like 16, 17.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and I did loads of ice skating before. I was like a really like high level ice skater before. That was the only thing that I did have to my resume. And actually I was sponsored by it, and working with a rink called Guildford Spectrum.
Oh, yeah,
They
yeah.
out loads and taking me on all these uh, kind of competitions and stuff. So
Mm.
I was getting good practice in that. And then I'd given so much of my life from the ages of 6 to about 16 doing ice skating in Guildford, going 3 times a week at 4 a.m. in the morning before school. I had arranged with school that I could come late. I was missing loads of stuff to go on these competitions, and it was
Yeah.
incredible. But you know, you get to 16 and you just want to kind of like have balance in your life and go out with friends and yeah, to
Yeah.
become a being. So I took a couple years off and missed that physicality. And then a dance teacher came up to me once. I think I was arguing with the PE teacher in school, like, listen, man, we need to discuss what is competition, you know, like it's ripping me apart. I can't be competing with all these big guys who have hit puberty. I just don't know what is going on, you know. And then my dance teacher, I think in a lot of ways, it was very similar, tapped me on the back and said, you know what, if you're really annoyed with this environment, why don't you come, got a dance studio, just jump around, do what you want and express yourself, you know. And no one had
Yeah.
given me the opportunity fully to do that yet. And even with ice skating, it was so structured. You were learning tricks. It didn't have much kind of like expression. And I just got hooked on that feeling of just letting it out and just kind of like going, wow, you know, and that feeling of cringing yourself out a bit and embarrassing yourself a bit, but also that rush that comes with that embarrassment, you know, when you do a dance move that you think is really cool and you're young and you know it's not good. No one's good at that age in that way, you know, where they're like a refined professional, but you kind of have a sense that you're trying to do something and you get a rush out of you know, people going, oh, you just did that in front of me, or you know, oh, cool. And you know, like a lot of male dancers, you know, you're that guy who does the backflip at the house party. You're, you know,
That's 100. You're the backflip guy. That's
100%. Everyone out there watching, there's a guy who you met who did a backflip at a house party. He probably went and tried to do dance. Go check up on him. He might be a professional dancer now. Who knows?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was
that's quite the origin story. Like, how did you get into this? I did a backflip at a dance party, and that's when I knew.
Yeah, like I was just struggling with PE, and my dance teacher came. For a lot of boys, you know, 16 years old, struggling with PE, but wanting to be physical. That's how it kind of happens, really.
So was that mainly how you got into dance? Was through school, basically?
Yeah, at that time through school. But I had an inclination from the ice skating and from the figure skating. I had an inclination. Fine, I was searching for a high level of physicality, and I think because, in a weird way, because I was getting up at 4 a.m. doing hours and hours and hours of training, then coming to school and doing everything at school, you know, almost forgetting that I had gone training and just was, you know, when you're a kid and you're so present and your environment gives you energy rather than you waking up and having to find your energy. So I was just going at school, laughing with my friends, and eventually everyone around me, my teachers were like, Josh has a hyperactivity that is, it's ADHD level amount of energy. But I
Yeah.
think everyone in my life realized that actually we were pushing him as an athlete. He's just an athlete because we've trained him so hard. Then he
Mm.
goes to school, then he comes home from school, and sometimes then I'll go training again. And it's kind of like I just had this enormous amount of energy, and then I quit. And
Yeah.
I quit, and I literally said to the rink, to everyone who was so invested in me, I just called like a cowardly child. I called up and I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm not coming in ever again. And I just did that with the phone,
Mm.
and was like, I couldn't process the decision as a child because I just I felt too bad about everything that was happening around me, and I just went
Mm.
off the rails for a couple of years. Found myself found myself at many a house party and many a backflip, just trying to get my social life back, and
Mm.
then kind of let myself get out of shape. And this is all happening at quite a young age. I had this awareness of athleticism and fitness at a young age, and it's kind of letting myself get really out of shape, not big but actually a little bit small, not eating and doing anything. And then I my body, it was just looking for creativity again. And at school I found it in this teacher, and I was quite, a tear away at school, and I was doing quite badly. And like you say,
Mm.
like I said to you, I was arguing with everyone. I was really, because when you're training as a youngster, you do become quite high functioning, because you're discussing your training like an adult with your coaches every day. You're going, okay, well, what can we do? I'm trying to do this. Where's my placement? So when you go to then PE in school, and especially the rough school that I went to, which I didn't really feel like the teachers overly respected you. I look back at some of my memories and I go, wow, that's crazy that was said to me.
Yeah.
You almost feel like an athlete to your teachers, that you're going, well, why are we doing this? Why have you structured the game? And it's so
Mm. And
I
they're
was
just
having
like, I'm just trying to get through the
yes,
class, man. I'm just trying to get through the
oh,
day and get
I've
this
got 40 little
paycheck.
animals here.
Yeah.
You're there with your monocle, like, excuse me, good sir.
Yeah. Could this exercise be structured better?
I'm so glad I found dance. I haven't done anything else. The second I stepped into the professional world, I managed to analyze. And I think like I said, like I had that kind of analytical mindset of
Mm.
how I approached my career coming straight out the bat. I knew I was not good enough. And to all the dancers out there who are coming out of training right now, I was not good enough to be a professional when I came out. I had the bits and the pieces, I had the spices,
Mm.
I had the detached things, but I needed to, in the first 2 years, put it together. So I knew I wasn't going to go out and step up into Ballet Boys or any of the Sadler's Associates or Wayne McGregor. The larger companies operating in London,
Mm.
I knew I wasn't going to be able to step straight into them. So I looked at the kind of middle range companies, the smaller company projects, the really tiny grassroots stuff. And I said, okay, first run of the ladder, here we go. Tom Dale, nice to meet you. Like, he offered me such an amazing avenue into the professional world. And I took that, and I did every single thing I could possibly do.
Mm.
Like, any cliche dancer story. Shout out Channing Tatum, step up one, we got this, like I was that guy, just giving it all. And so just worked really, really hard as a professional,
Mm.
and climbed up, because the way funding works in the UK, especially in the UK, you have to look at how funding affects not only you as an artist.
Mm.
It quantifies companies actually quite easily. You have really grassroots stuff working on, a four figure budget. Then you have like medium range companies who are working on 5-figure budget, doing small tours up and down the UK, going to Edinburgh Fringe and then seeing what they can do internationally. And
Yeah.
then you have like the MPOs, and you have people who are massively privately funded, like Wayne McGregor, Royal Ballet, have huge amounts of private funding, and the
Mm.
MPO on top. And you can kind of look at that as a structure. It fluctuates and it changes, but you can see that there's runs in a ladder. You can see how to climb. You can see, some choreographers were dancers in the big companies, came down and just started in a middle range choreographic position, with a bit of Arts Council funding. So
Mm.
everything is connected and everyone is connected. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, here's at least a game we can play. Here's at least a something to analyze. I'm always looking as a dancer to not just go where my creative heart follows me, but also put that together with an analytical practice of the industry that
Mm.
is all the time trying to make the art of booking work and creating a yearly income which is
Yeah.
quantifiable and predictable as much as you can within certain, you know, fluctuations and certain unsteadiness within the industry.
Mm.
You can do a lot within there to find safety. And yeah, to all of those dancers out there going, wow, there's only a few big companies and I'm not in the position where I can step into them. See where you create the ladder almost with your analysis and see where the
Yeah.
first run is and just take a step on that run. You might get halfway and just suck it in, but at least you can try. At least it won't feel like it's happening to you so much. I think the dancers, sometimes we're almost a victim to the government cut funding. We're like, you know,
Yeah.
the companies are not offering PAYE contracts anymore. No, you know, like
Yeah.
injury, diet, nutrition, everything is almost happening to you sometimes, and you don't feel like you can relinquish so much control over your own life to make the decisions that are outside of dance more
Mm.
safe and more predictable, you know, and more kind of real and actual.
Mm. I talked with we'd had a dancer, Jeremiah Olusola, on a couple podcasts ago, and he talked about a little bit similar about that having that balance between career and artistry, between the kind of stuff where you're, you know, the sort of bread and butter things, or the things which are maybe more kind of career focused, and the things that are, you know, just throwing in occasionally, just like a project that, you know, might not pay as well but is very artistically fulfilling, and, you know, finding that balance. And it is kind of a balancing act, and I think it's also just having awareness of just being honest with yourself and just going, what is the work that I really want to do, you know? Like sometimes it feels like it's enough just to do any dance work, but it really helps if you get into the specifics of, like, you know, what work do I enjoy being a part of, what companies do I admire, what sort of working environment or creative environment, rehearsal environment do I want to be a part of, and do I appreciate. I think all of those kind of things, if you can articulate those things, or at least ask those questions, even if you have to put a question mark next to them, it helps you push, yeah, just have a bit more of a directed search, and a bit more focus, because especially these days, applications take so long. You know, it's not like, there is some things that are sort of like one-click applications, or you know, if you can find representation, that's really good. But for some of these like dance companies, like, you know, I'll spend like 4 hours on an application, and, you know, then there's like multiple stages to maybe the audition. You might put video clips together. It can be a very long process. So if you already have a clear idea, then you're gonna sort of spend your time and energy a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes down to auditions, like some auditions out there, man, and some of the some of the hoops that you have to jump through just to get in the room it's honestly ridiculous. I think, you know, some companies that have massive open auditions and you know, bring everyone into the room that applied, and then you have other companies who create such a strict line of selection that just the application itself is hurts you when you don't get it, because you've put so much into that application. I
Mm.
think I talk to a lot of my young dancers and a lot of the seedlings and the young ones coming up. I say, streamline your application process, you know,
Right.
make it personal, make it something that is reaching out to individual people, but also, you know, don't be afraid to kind of create something that can be mass sent and altered very small amounts. So because people are doing that with you too, you know, it's not a personal slight. I think
Mm.
once you understand that your creative brain is the driving force of your career, but actually an analytical, business-minded structure around that creative brain to facilitate it, almost like a team of people, you know, like
Mm.
I don't know anyone who's into boxing or the UFC or anything like that. You have the fighter, you have the creative brain, the fighter,
Yeah.
and then everyone around that fighter is making sure that they're fit, they're healthy, they've made weight, their mind's clear, so they can get in to the ring and do their thing. And I think to do that somewhat in the arts world with the creative brain, and then to surround it with a kind of business analytical structure, is just to simply, it's not to pull away from your art, it's actually to protect and to facilitate what you are moving forward, because they're always the projects that you will want to do. And I think
Yeah.
always moving like a kind of ship through the ocean, be moving in this general direction. Like for me, I really wanted to work with Sadler's Associates. The second I stepped into Sadler's Wells, I was like, I want to perform on this stage, but not one time on a one-off breaking convention situation, but to be on an associate, to be on a regular platform here, and to have access to this platform, and to project art from this space, because I just loved it. It just captivated me, and this London captivated me. So yeah, to have your general direction, but to also know there are things around you that you can do to keep you afloat and to keep you going in this direction. Some of the projects that I do, they're not always my passion project. They're not always something that I'm grasping onto and wanting to achieve for myself. Some of the projects I do, I genuinely hear the idea and I think, wow, you could benefit from having someone of a more veteran standard on the project, or you can benefit from having someone who, if it's quite a young project, someone who's been around the block a few times, just to not come in and dominate, but to just offer that mature energy, and to offer leadership in areas that maybe a smaller company might need that dance captain leadership or that rehearsal director leadership, but don't have the budget to go, we would like you as a rehearsal director. So, little grassroots things and stuff like that, and shoots and commercials and reputation and representation, music videos. These things I use to help me just kind of move towards the things that I do desire.
To fill in the gaps and stuff. I did want to ask you, just from a kind of not just so much a career point of view, but just from improving as a dancer. You talk about coming out of training, and then those first kind of 2 years where you were sort of had the elements and you were trying to figure out how to bring them together. How do you bring those together? How do you you're very well, you can see from your dancing your kind of influences of, you said ice skating, and that makes so much sense when viewing your turns, which are sort of, you can see the foundation ice skating in them, and your different influences, but you're really well realized dancer. All those things are really well integrated into kind of one body, one dancer. What would be like your advice for being realized as a dancer? For how did you start to bring those things together in a practical way to actually get to where you wanted as a dancer, sort of in terms of the level of your dancing?
Yeah, it's a really great question, because it took me a long time to refine myself. My body is very lanky, and I find it very hard to kind of be clean, and to kind of, almost, it's great to hear your description, because that's always what I'm trying to show is well-roundedness, versatility, everything putting through my mesh of my creative mind. And I think the ice skating has really helped to have something innate in your body that you've done as a child. I think if you have any dancers out there or people out there in dance, if you have done anything, even if it's like landscape gardening, or I don't know, just like crochet or something, or polo, I don't know, if you've done anything as a child, have a little rummage through the feeling of that activity, and have a little rummage through the feeling of some of the things that you've done as a child. Because if you've done anything repetitively as a child, like ice skating or anything, it is actually amazing how it will never leave you. Like, I can sit in an off season, or I can go on a holiday and put everything down for a while and come back and have to train up a little bit to get things back where they are. But I could have 50 drinks on a Saturday night and still do a jump and 2 turns in the air for you, just because I did it as a child. So anything, it doesn't have to be ice skating or something grandiose and physical. Anything that you excessively did as a child, go and see if you can reflect and pull from that, and pull from your child. I think consciousness as an artist is so crucial. Before we even talk about physicality, how to objectively understand yourself, objectively understand your biases, how to have multiple zoom lenses in which to see things that are happening to you in life, all of your struggles, all of the hardest things and the best things that have happened to you in your life. To be able to look through many different sizes of lenses impartially with all your bias, emotionally, and in a detached form. This is consciousness. And I think the more you're able to absorb your reality around you through a highly conscious being, the more you will be able to take ideas that are in people's head, in your head, and bring them out into the physical world. Now that is it is such a finite, almost like detailed part of being an artist, where you can have an incredible amount of physical ability and probably coast on not being highly conscious. But I would just recommend, because even if you did have a high amount of physical ability, if you apply true conscious being to that, you become an artist rather than a kind of this, rather than just to simply a superhero.
So it's sort of, it's using the resources, the physical resources that are already built into your body, that are already available to you, whatever those may be. And it's also being conscious, being present. You know, I think this is something contemporary dance does a lot better than other dance forms per se, or it's something that I really appreciated when I came to understand contemporary dance, is the sort of somatic practice of, you know, now we're going to arrive in our bodies, you know, and what that really means, arrive in the space, and just have an awareness of other people, have an awareness of the music, have an awareness of the different parts of the body, having an awareness of how you're feeling, and how that might be restricting your dancing, or other areas of the body you need to open up, you know, because especially starting in like a place like breakdance, you know, there isn't that awareness. B-boys just like trash their bodies because there's a lack of awareness of like, oh, hey, like, you know, my shoulder's kind of hurting. Maybe I need to warm that up first before I start throwing crazy mills without stretching. Like,
like with breakdancing, it's like a Rubik's cube. You know, it's sat in front of you. It's so hard to do. It's the stamina involved. Let me tell you that people do not realize the stamina involved in breakdancing. I'm not a OG. I'm not someone who's been in breaking for their entire life. I can do some breaking, and I've worked a lot with hip hop theater companies, and it's there in my life, a strong part of my practice, and it's there every day. But all respect to the stamina of breakdancing, it is so tough, and to not have that and to be honest, like it's not just kind of this thing of arriving in your body and arriving in space. It's understanding as an artist and as a creative how you respond to absolutely everything, and your awareness to absolutely everything in your life, your relationships with everybody. Because there are two things that happen in dance that I think are a bit not so much talked about, which is the quicker that you learn how you learn, the quicker you will take charge of your own progression and be able to not just kind of go, oh, wow, I learned this new thing today. Amazing. But you're actually on a journey of incrementally taking steps forward in your technique, but also in your career and maintaining your life as you move forward. So the quicker that you learn how I didn't learn that at Laban. Nobody taught me that. I didn't even ask to be taught that, you know, because I was so unaware. I learned this after I came out of training, which is how I learn. The process in which I learned. I need to sit and do X, Y, and Z first, and then approach X, Y, and Z in this manner. Secondly, being a dancer is not just simply being a dancer on a project. You know, you are a human being who's interacting with seniors. I mean, in terms of like choreographers, directors, people in senior positions, and people who are in more junior positions to you. So when you're on a project, you're not just there dancing and then, you know, when the cut happens, when you're there, you're just sat there. You're constantly alert. You're creating a pleasurable experience for you, the choreographer, especially if you're touring. If you're touring, it's hard. You want to diva out all the time because you're tired. You're being told where to be and how to be all of the time. Eventually, you know, 60, 70 shows in, even the audience clapping is kind of, you know, sometimes on a bad day, your personal life is scratching at the door. You're having arguments with people in your personal life, and you have to do a show. And it's very hard when you're touring to
Mm.
maintain that conscious being and to go, actually, whew, let me be good and gracious to the people around me and be a benefit to this process and this machine as it's on the road. I see so many dancers. They're the most incredible dancers. They're honestly, you step on stage with them, they're like mad, but they're divas and they're awful to be around off of
Yeah.
off of the stage, and they won't get that booking again. The
Mm.
choreographer will see that they're not, integrating. A choreographer wants to have a team of people around them, not just a bunch of soloists who are epic on their own journey on tour, where doing their own thing, arguing and bickering. They want people who gel, who are easygoing, who are gracious, who are giving and
Mm.
conscious, highly conscious people, and
It,
empathetic.
yeah, it makes such a difference to have those dancers who like, those people who are not necessarily team leaders, but I really appreciate the ralliers, the people who are just like, come on, guys, let's do this. Like, the people who are just like, all right, let's go again, or like, yeah, I'm tired too. You're tired. We're all tired. Like the people who can just like bring the team together a little bit, and it's kind of, it's leading from the middle in a way. And yeah, like you say, people like that can really drag the energy out of a room, or can help create a collective energy that can then bring the whole team forward. And people absolutely 100% like acknowledge that thing. I think attitude is so important. Like, even for me, like as a choreographer, I would so much rather take someone who uh their dancing level might be a B, but their attitude is an A, because I know if they're gonna be just like, like you want those dancers who you're like, okay, we might need to change the section. They're like, no, let me try it again. Let me do it again. Like, I got this. I got this. Like, who have that hunger, have that drive, who are there
Yeah,
for the team. Because once you put all of that together, you get so much more out of a team of dancers
yeah,
that have that attitude. The one who, like you say, is really good, but isn't really gonna push the team or push the
mm,
process. Um, yeah,
yeah. Really interesting, observing a choreographer when I'm a dancer on a project, because I think there's nothing more nerve-wracking. I think that even when you're dancing, you come out on stage and you can feel in yourself, you can hear the music, even if I miss a couple counts, I'm going to get there for this because I need to get this done. And sometimes when you're
yep,
performing, you have things that you need to do. I need to switch on this light, or I need to manipulate this prop, or I need to move this set. You're not just coming out and doing your dance move. Behind the scenes, even when people are dancing, you might be moving set. You might be helping a technician if the team is not, if someone's not there for that night.
yeah,
So for the choreographer, imagine being out there sitting among the people who are witnessing and judging your work. You've been there. I mean, I'm sure you've been there. I've been there, where
nerve wracking.
it is way more nerve-wracking than being on stage. When I'm on stage, your adrenaline is rushing. Almost everything feels a little bit slower than the audience are perceiving it, because you have so much adrenaline. You're moving, but your eyes are coasting. Your eyes are looking at what's going on
Mm,
around you. You have time to see and to connect with people. Are you ready? Here we
yeah,
go. Where as a choreographer, they can't truly empathize with what's going on in your head. They just have your experience of you in the studio to trust you on stage. And it's so nerve-wracking. Even if somebody sits next to you, goes like that, you feel it, you're like, oh, they're judging my work. And
mm,
so I think during production week, during high stress, you need to know when the high stress times of a project are, so you can then adapt your own behavior. I'm not going to be
yeah,
the same forward speaking confident self that I am early in a project, where I'm going, look, here's ideas later on in the project, where the choreographer is just trying to clear their head and get what it is there in front of them, cut all the fat. You don't want to be throwing ideas in at that point in the process, because the choreographer is
yeah,
just going to go, shut up. I need to trim fat right now. I don't need to take content. So it's
yeah.
like all of these things are so interesting to see when to do that on a project. Some choreographers might want that at the very beginning. Some might want that at the end, but to understand the human being in front of you and the creative energy through that consciousness that I was
Mm,
talking about earlier, you will then provide such a better service for that person that you're trying to provide a service to, or the piece that you're trying to, the art that you're trying to service.
mm. And it's going to
So
be more sustainable, like, for yourself as well. Like you say, it's um, it's so easy to get burnout if you're not taking care of yourself, and I've been on projects where, especially when like I first, like that first one or two jobs where you just say yes to everything, in the process, and actually realizing like, oh, actually, like I need to put some boundaries in here just for myself as well, because actually there's certain things that I need, you know, okay, I know that I need that evening just to be by myself so I can, like, just be an introvert and recover, or I know I need to do something on this day, or just having that little bit of self-awareness to kind of say no, and to be able to self-manage so that you can actually have longevity.
mm,
And also, like, the choreographer, your other teammates, like, other company members, they don't know those things. They don't know what you need. So it's, I think sometimes we're, as dancers, it can be very much like, oh, I'm just gonna do my job. I'm gonna do, what people ask. And I think sometimes you do just need to be honest and just say, hey, I think I kind of need this. And
yeah,
um, actually, if you just at least articulate those things, I think that's first of
yeah,
all, it's okay, and it's helpful because it actually makes it more sustainable for you, and it makes it more sustainable for everybody.
yeah. It's
Um,
such a great point. I mean, that's something that I'm even mastering to this day. Like
yeah, so much.
last year February, I had knee surgery, and I put myself on that operating table myself
Wow.
because I think, and this is something that um the young dancers are yet to experience, which is kind of like once you breach through and once you kind of get your foot in the door and your shoulder in the door and a door hits you in the face and you just about get into the room, and someone puts the champagne flute in front of you and you're trying to act normal, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So once you're in the room, then all of a sudden it's managing the double bookings, and it's managing everything, and slicing it and piecing your year all together. And if you get your
Mm,
ratios wrong, let me tell you, I'm really fit and I'm really healthy. You will end up on that operating table because I was doing live work, and just that last year, I just got my live work. I just said yes to too much live touring, and my live touring, as opposed to my music videos and commercials, which are a lot less taxing on the body and sometimes more lucrative. So you need to have those things, like you say, your other occupation, because if you're touring live all year, every year, if you haven't got a professional team around you, if you're not with one of the top companies who's providing physio and massage almost after every show and things like that, you will end up injured. No
mm,
word of a doubt. I don't care whether you're Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime, you will end up injured because it needs to be balanced. Like I got my live ratios wrong. Like I was doing maybe, let's say, 80% live work, 20% kind of music videos and commercials. My knee
hmm.
went, and it took me 3 4 months. Well,
Wow.
slightly longer than that. I'm still dealing with it now, but I can dance again. But
Mm,
it forced me then. An injury happens to you as a dancer. It's like your nightmare thing, surgery, nightmare thing,
yeah.
but you can make it into something that is so incredible for you. I learned so much about my body, about my recovery, about my ups and my downs, that especially the downs, I always take my low points and I use them in my art and I use them in my craft. I
Mm,
recycle every one of my experiences, I recycle through my craft because it allows me to empathize and be more compassionate with roles and choreographers and things that I'm approaching, and it was just where was I? All of these experiences in life, yeah, they just aid your ability to provide as an artist, and so I sorted out my representation after that and started doing a little bit more commercials and tweaked my ratios of my career. And
mm,
just in that tweaking, just in the ability of that tweaking, once I had got it set, I had one of the best years of my life during lockdown. So it was kind of
wow.
like, it just goes to show you, when you have that analytical mind and that slightly business minded structure just surrounding your creative mind, supporting it, moving it forward, so it's not just you as a naked creative, but it's you have a plan. It works, and it can work, and this industry can really work for you. I think
Mm,
it's so easy sometimes to talk about how tough it is to be a dancer, but it also is so rewarding and
mm.
the life experiences that I've had, I would trade again and again and again for more stability in a 9 to 5 job, because, you know, you get to go around the world, you get to meet people, you get to talk and have these incredible conversations that, yes, they are about the self, but they also feel that you're giving as well. I know we're not frontline NHS, but I do think there is an element to art, and I have met people after a show, and I've met people after a big show, and one that I really believe in, and things like that. And you see how moved they are.
Yeah.
And you see young kids, and you see how alive their brain is when they're talking to you. And you hear people sometimes in the audience, what they're going through. And or you see a family having just a lovely experience. You know, some of the memories of going to the theater in my young mind, they're not just memories of going into the theater and experiencing superheroes. They're memories of me being with my family. They're
Mm.
memories of me, you know, doing something progressive and seeing something that is dangerous. When you step into a live theater, you feel danger. You feel
Mm.
like mistakes can be made. And even when mistakes are made, it gratifies you as an audience. You're like, wow, he was
Mm.
human for a second. Did you see?
Yeah.
Did you see the incredible person who we've been watching has just made a tiny mistake? They're human and they're closer to me now.
It's also it's part of what I feel the power of like live work is, as opposed to seeing something that's digital and highly polished, is that when you see something happen live, you know, it's more like the person's right there. Like that person's in the room. They're the same like laws of gravity apply to them as and laws of physics apply to them as apply to me. And yet they did that. Whereas I think sometimes when you see like dance on film and on video, because it sort of flattens it, sometimes you forget the physics. Like you see a backflip and you kind of see the motion of a backflip or the visual of a backflip, and you kind of forget like, oh, that person's like, you know, fighting gravity for a second. And it's only
Yeah.
when you see it in front of you and you're just like that, with your own body present, that you realize how truly creative and absurd what
Yeah.
these dancers are doing is. I do think you know, I am very pro digital. I think it's like a great, but I think there is an element of live dance and the impact that it has that sort of can't be missed in a way.
Yeah. Well, with digital stuff, you need, you know, like I think the camera, the equipment, the technology is also on display. You know, you're also looking
Right.
at the new Komodo Dragon camera, or
Mm.
the new technology with this lighting, with this way that it's shot. With the live work, you have that rawness, you have that kind of like you said, the gravity. Like I think when people imagine stuff in their head, especially as dancers, when we lay at night and we think about dance moves, we don't apply gravity. We just don't. And I think that's
Yeah.
something really interesting. I think I've never met a dancer who doesn't do that. And do you think about dance at night? Yeah, yeah. But can you ever not do those moves in the studio because you don't apply this finite kind of like physics in your head? And
Mm.
I think also that happens in the live work where you see something on camera and you're just like, it just, especially when you see like Red Bull, like Sunny, like B-Boy Sunny from Red Bull
Yeah.
or something like that, doing these amazing flips and such creative stuff. When you see that live and you hear the gravity and you feel your own weight
Mm.
as well. You see that and you're like, how does a body move?
You're like, oh, that's actually crazy.
Yeah. And I think as young boys, we especially get that hooks us very early, that
Mm.
you know, dance, that facilitation to impress people. And I
Yeah.
think it's not something so egotistical as when you're a child and you want to do that, or when you're a young man and you want to do that. You're not trying to become or to be seen as attractive. You're trying to show something that you have learned, something difficult, something that's going to impress. And I think
Mm.
following that journey in life and unraveling some of the narcissism from that process and becoming a professional artist is been an incredibly opening self-awareness kind of
Mm.
experiment.
I think one
Because
of the things as well is, and I think this is good, like I think like you say, for so many, especially young boys, and I was the same, you know, for me, I was a shy kid. And then you know, I found dance, and that was the first time you know, I would do something and people would be like, oh wow, that's amazing. And it gives you a huge amount of confidence as a young man, to be in that position. And I think one of the things about it is like, I think it's okay to seek this kind of approval from others. But it's more about who that approval is coming from, and how, and also that the great thing about dance is that you're presenting a quite a raw version of yourself. So when that quite raw version of yourself, very expressive, there's vulnerability in dance, is praised. That I feel like that praise hits home more, um, more than when I do other things that are cool, but maybe not quite so vulnerable. I didn't risk as much to present myself there. And I think in terms of who you get that encouragement from, like, this is why it's important to put yourself around dancers who are encouraging and help push you forward. Find out what helps push you, and who are the kinds of people that you find help push you in your dancing. It's tutors, but also peers are so important. Like, I something that I get a little frustrated with in like b-boying is like b-boys who don't give props. Something sick happens, and they just like do like a little, like, oh, cool, and like I always try to give it up on the cipher. I'm like, don't be stingy with the praise, man. Like, everybody needs it. Everybody, if you see something dope, like, say something,
Yeah, the art world
because
rules
that
on that.
makes such a big difference, and it makes it fun, and it makes everybody want to be here, and it makes you grow faster. Because if you're having fun, you're more likely to take risks, meaning you're more likely to grow. So I think that's, yeah, it's more of like, it's good, but it's like having the right attitude about it. I feel like.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, the sooner that you learn that as a creative, I think even not even in dance, I think even in anything that's to do with your ego, to do with your product, something that's coming from you,
True,
whether it's
true.
instrument or through your body, like the sooner that you realize that you learn to praise and that you can freely, really enjoy other artists, it's so liberating to let go.
Yeah.
I remember being a young dancer, and I remember how that is, where everything sends you into your head. You see something amazing, or you hear about someone's booking a project, and you're like, oh, that I need to, I need to do that, or I need to get on that level, and it's such a deeply natural and deeply insecure place to be. And the
Mm,
second that you liberate yourself from that, it actually will bring you more success in this world. And I'm not an overly, massively I'm quite a pragmatic mind. I'm not overly in the clouds too much. I'm not following, the star signs and reading my what do you call it, my star signs and things like that. But I do believe
yeah,
that
horoscope.
when the horoscope, I do believe that when you put out good energy and when you celebrate the human beings around you,
Yeah.
one thing in dance that is crazy and that I still can't explain to this day is that if you conceive something in your head, you have an image in your head, a goal, the
Mm,
way that you can manifest it in a creative space is so crazy. Like,
yeah.
I have directly asked for things in my head in dance and they've manifested in my life so instantly, and I just don't
Mm,
see that anywhere else in life. I don't experience that level of manifestation, and I think there's something quite spiritual and energetic within dance that is the energy that you put out, and it's so based on who you know and spreading your network and this kind of web of positivity that people creatives just respond, and they just respond to authenticity and celebration in that way.
mm,
There are two things that you can do as a dancer. It's a bit old school, really, but like there's this old school idea of being quite brutal about dance and being quite
yeah.
kind of like, cigarettes in the studio, a little kind of ballet stick on the back of the knee, like we need to, get better and do this and grill them. And I
The
think
Spartans.
kind of, yeah, the old school Spartans of dance which are there, but you meet people nowadays who are coming up in dance and they've experienced that, and they do like one of two things. They kind of experience those harsher people and go, when I'm in that position, I'm going to be that harsh, because that's what dance is, and that's how they made the good stuff, and that's how I'm going to make the good stuff.
Right.
And there are people who experience that treatment and go, well, that's a really nice example of what I'm not going to do. And that's a
Mm,
really nice example of how I know now that I don't like to be treated that way. So I'm going to run a project completely differently, and it's going to be much more ergonomic and compassionate.
yeah.
So
Mm.
yeah.
Is there a project that you've done over the years that just is your favorite, just from like a working point of view? a project that
There
stands out to you
there are
that
a
you're
few
like,
moments.
that was dope, like that was true, that was when I was doing that, I felt like I was in the right place.
Um, I think that, yeah, that I have to give like a few shout outs here. I have to shout out Tom Dale Company
Hmm.
for just picking me up and just going, you're bad, but your energy is good. And you know, they were really real with me. They were like, you're not there yet, but
Right.
come here. We will. Tom and the team just grew me, and they just put me
Hmm.
around dancers as well that were so much higher level than me that I just learned quickly and quickly identified with my, you know, seniors and
Hmm.
my olders, as you would say on the estate, my olders. And
But they also saw that you could get there as well, so
yeah,
it's
yeah, there was always that, you know. I wasn't just sinking under.
yeah.
um, I was working really, really hard, and so that was just amazing, because I was also a fan of the company in studying, and was kind of like wanting to go there. Then the best piece I've done for me personally is a piece called Fagin's Twist with Avant Garde.
Yeah.
I just, it gave me the spoken word, and it gave me the script, and it also gave me the hip hop element of who I am now. I was always
Mm.
doing a little bit of breaking and some tricks and things like that, but they refined it, and then they showed me different genres and showed me how to respect um, hip hop theater and hip hop styles, you know, and not just, you know, haphazardly go into everything, but respect the foundations,
Yeah.
learn your foundations, know who to tilt your hat at, and really respect a genre of dance that's been born in the streets, that has been born from cultural expression in the heart of subculture, in the heart
Hmm.
of you know, people's culture. That's what sometimes when I'm stepping into hip hop styles like house and popping, you're stepping into someone's house, and you need to
Mm.
wipe your feet and show respect. Whereas contemporary also has this history of, you know, creative, what do you call it, eccentricity. It has
Yeah.
this kind of open free play where it was almost a movement. Contemporary dance was almost liberals, you know, eccentrics coming together and just expressing through that culture. So
Mm.
it feels, contemporary dance feels a lot more like be who you are and be as you
Yeah.
please, you know, groovy. And then hip hop styles feel a lot more like, hey, this was born in a time where this expression is all that we had, and we had
Yeah.
to meet up in these places and do this because this is all that we had. So when you come into this space, you'll come in here as you, but also understand that there is OGs and there is like a
Mm.
kind of etiquette to have there within that space. So it's
That's one of the
amazing.
things I love with like street dance is like is that they all really did start in our and especially in terms of the history is that I love the way in which dances are a great microcosm of how people respond to their circumstances, and they're often a great capsule, a great way of capturing what people were feeling in that place, in that time in history. You know, thinking about, you know, like crumping, for instance, you know, happened in the ashes of the Rodney King riots, of these race riots in the 90s in LA, you know, and it was born out of sort of, you know, great pain, and a need to kind of exercise that pain,
Yeah.
you know, you know,
And
and yeah, all these different, how all these things are, yeah, just little kind of moments in time, and people
mm,
responding to their circumstances, I
mm.
think is and it shows the necessity of dance. I-
Crump was so beautiful. Crump was so beautiful because it's so young. And
hmm,
I don't know, I've never heard anyone talk about this, and I'm so sorry if this makes people cringe, but like there's a expression of toxic masculinity within Crump, and there's an expression of
hmm,
strong male energy just wanting to inhabit a character and to tell a story, that for me, Crump, to watch Crump live, the true form of the improvised storytelling, character playing of Crump like that, I invite anyone to go and watch Crump live. It will rock the water within your body. The
hmm.
power of that dance form is incredible. But yeah, anyway, back onto the track. The avant-garde Pagan Swiss was probably the show that just boosted me slightly as a professional, also outwardly to people's opinion of me, but also within myself as my ability as a professional.
Hmm.
Because after that, I then went to go and work with Jasmin, and it just gave me that jump to finally go, look, let me address the Sadler's Associates, because I've been climbing ladders here for a while. I'll go and find an audition and seek an audition here that's going to put me in that Sadler's Associate position, and also to work with a company that's going to encourage that physical theatre aspect that Fagan's Twist, imparted in me. And it really gave me this acting bug, where now I look a lot more at, acting opportunities and to play characters and roles. And it just brought that love for playing a role, and for playing a character out, and to not just be a vessel of dance and a vessel of movement, but to also go into your own space. And when you're making a character, it's so interesting. It's almost like, accessorizing and drawing from synthesized elements of the character, and also taking off masks and being more yourself and using more of yourself. Some part of acting is putting on masks and kind of playing a role, and some part of acting to me is also taking off masks and finding a feeling. And not that I'm that good that I'm sitting there like Christian Bale. I'm not sitting there like Christian Bale.
Is that his process? I didn't know. For the Batman, he was just there, just like the thinker, just, I'm the Batman.
Yeah,
I'm the Batman. Just for hours on end. A lot of people don't know that, but true story.
Yeah. He just hid drugs. He hid drugs around his house, and then just walked around going, "Where are the drugs?"
Oh, dude. Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. I think that's a common denominator in a lot of the work that you've done, is even those that maybe aren't so much acting, but is that element of strong storytelling. And a lot of the choreographers that you've chosen over the years do have that element of some kind of thread through their work of a strong human or strong storytelling element. And yeah, it's interesting, those things, like you said, that you discover along the way of actually yeah, not just acting, but the ways in which character and maybe that kind of personal and psychological almost kind of research can be so informative to the dancing itself as well, and help you embody it and get into it and get into the feeling, and also the why. I find often those things help you get into the why of the dancing, of what are we doing here, which I think is so crucial. For me, the dance work that I love, that is always 100% clear, the why, not just, oh, I'm seeing beautiful dancing, but why are we dancing?
The why is such a beautiful, it's such a beautiful concept, the why. I think as a young dancer, then growing up from kind of 21, 22 to 29, my why it's changing, and my understanding of the industry is changing so much. I think why I do this now as an older kind of young man, as opposed to just a straight up young man, is so different. I think it's so much more self-led when you're younger, and just led from that sheer ignorance and confidence. And then when the dust settles and you see what you've done, it becomes about also what my life is as an artist, and what I want in my life as a human being, whether that be a wife and a kids and a house and dance. And actually my why is expanding into growing into an adult, and not simply just attaching my umbilical cord to dance, but opening it up into structuring a life, and into your kind of mission as a human being on this planet, whether that mission is to kind of have children, like I said, or to be yourself and to achieve incredible things, or both.
To be a whole person, to be not just a dancer, but to be.
I think in dance, it's a shock when that happens. I think it shocked me for sure, if I'm really, really honest with the viewers out there, when you kind of get to this point where you're like, oh, I've done it, like I'm a dancer, and each year there's work, and you kind of look up and you go, oh right, yeah, but that's all I am. That's all I am, like and you know, you see people around you who have normal jobs and who are in kind of salary based situations, and they're like sitting in their house with their kids going, oh, okay, awesome. And you're like, oh wow, we're different now. So
Mm,
all of these weird little simple ticks and pieces of awareness come together, and it comes with a whole load of insecurity as well. You know, it comes with a whole
mm,
load of like, have I used this time well enough, and have I fulfilled myself well enough? But I think that's part of being an artist. I think that's part of
mm,
being a journey. I think if you're not questioning yourself in some form, then by deduction, some progression comes from that. So
mm,
it's such an interesting journey, and like it has so many times in this conversation, it wraps back around to your own consciousness, and it constantly wraps back around to your own vision and understanding of life as it
mm,
happens around you. So that is for me the crux. Like I said, it's to be an artist is to be conscious,
mm,
even to be conscious of what you might be unconscious of. It's a philosophy. It's a philosophical journey that you're on.
mm.
Um,
And as
and
that appreciating that dance is just a part of the pie, I think it's will ultimately make you a happier dancer and probably a better dancer if you're looking after these other areas of your life. If you're going, hey, I do need personal happiness. I do need to be, I do need, fiscal security. Understanding that there are these other parts to you that require your attention in order for you to be happy, and ultimately, you know, it's only through finding that balance that you can sort of have a sustainable career, because otherwise you feel the pull of those things too much.
yeah,
um, and it's also a little bit, the grass is always greener, right? Because when, for dance professionals, when it is tough, a lot of my non-dance friends, they're just like, Dave, you inspire me so much. The fact that you're doing something you love. And I'm like, yeah, it also just doesn't always pay. And there is just unbelievable about a hustle and grind, like yes, I'm doing what I love, but like I also like give up, my weekends, give up evenings, to make it happen, and like, you guys, you have your weekend. And so, or maybe they have the, financial security to go buy a house, or, to have the family, or to do these things. Um, but they don't have a fulfilling career necessarily. It's a juggling act for everybody, and I think there is a little bit of always the grass is greener. And ultimately, I think it's yeah, it's just looking within and going, is this balance right? Or are there things that I need to address? And also just accepting the things you want. It took me a while to just say, to just be honest with myself about what I actually wanted, and not embarrassed to actually want things.
yeah,
Um,
totally. I think
and,
that that's
yeah,
such a great point. I think, there's always this idea in dance. So we're not in it for the money. We're not in it for anything else. We're in it for the art. We're in it to create. And then actually, let me close this computer right now and go into my personal life. And if I'm here living in squalor, if I'm not living into the standard that I'm comfortable with, it's going to affect my art. So
mm,
actually existing in art and understanding, for me personally, I want financial gain. I want financial security. I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not afraid to say that I book projects to facilitate financial gains for myself, and that I do chase money sometimes in this career. And I think the second that you sit there and you're real with yourself, and that you go out, I want these things in life. I want a
yeah,
house, I want a kid, and I want a car on the driveway. Sometimes in art, I meet people who are a little bit inhibited of saying that sometimes, because they feel it uncreative. And
yeah,
I just think, the second that actually you look at that and go, well, there's a moment, wrapping back around to that consciousness that we've been talking about, there's a moment where I've not been quite real with myself. And
yeah,
actually, if I'm in this practice of being real with myself and this practice of consciousness, then let me be honest to the degree of honesty that
mm,
that I'm going to be real, really real with you. So I think the
mm,
second, like you say, that you manifest certain things, it's very easy to get creative nourishment. It's very easy to sit in a big fat bowl of your own creative nourishment in the dance world. It's like you can walk out the door and find a good few people come with you in that bowl as well.
Yeah.
So it's not so easy to do the things that our brothers and sisters and dads and mums and people who have normal jobs do. That's the grass is greener element for us. So it's just important to just be real and to be unafraid to be yourself in art, especially as you grow older. Let me tell you something that I find is so funny that I see now, you know. I can be a young 21, 22-year-old coming out of Ron Bear, maybe got into a big company, and then I post on Instagram a thing of me moving around like this, you know, and everyone's like, "Oh, look at the innovation! Look at all of this." If I'm, it's so different how people will see that. If I'm a 30-year-old man in my room with my camera on the floor and I'm doing some weird movement, people will view that differently because of my age, because of my status, because of where I am. They'll go, "Oh, bloody hell, look at this old guy going crazy," you know. Like, I'm not saying yeah, I'm not saying that that's the best example, but I'm just saying, you know, as you grow older in dance, you kind of feel this. I don't know. This may just be me as well. I kind of feel this insecurity that settles in, where you question also your relevance. You question your kind of your popular, not your popularity, but your place in popular culture in your own mind in a weird way.
I think part of this is the fact that there's a cultural element. I'm feeling this as well. You know, 27 now, going to be turning 28. I'm married. I have a kid on the way. You know, and I'm feeling that, like, that shift as well. And I think part of it is cultural. You know, first of all, like, men in our culture and in the West don't really dance. I feel lucky enough to have a bit of an outsider's perspective, and I understand that both internationally, both geographically and historically, the times we live in are really bizarre, and it's really unorthodox that the men in our culture don't dance. That's quite bizarre. Most cultures, men dance in some form, and actually the dance is in some way an integral part of their manhood and their male expression and their expression of what a man means to be. It's often in part how they articulate what a man is through the physicality of dance. You know, and you can argue about the right or wrongness about that or how that functions, but I think part of it is getting older and going, oh, that's not something like a man does, or that's not something an adult does. And I think it's such a beauty, but it's also why it becomes more and more essential and beautiful when you see an adult dancing and having full expression, because you know, becoming an adult doesn't remove your need for play. It doesn't remove your need for expression. And just because you're having to, you know, pay the bills doesn't mean you don't need to be free and to be open. And when I go and dance at the bandstand and do my break dance and stuff, pretty much every single time I go, when I'm by myself, um, kids will always come up to me and dance. Like, I don't think I've had one session when I've been like dancing alone where kids haven't gone, "Oh my gosh, that looks like so much fun," run away from their parents and come and just like started to do like a little boogie alongside me, because it's just in their bones. And I think especially for, you know, young boys, like I do feel weird sometimes, like you say, being like understanding that shift of, oh, now see me as people don't just see me as like a teenager or a young man. People see me as like a man dancing in the park by himself. Like, but how important that is for young boys as well to go like, oh, that's what a man does. Like, and seeing that example just in their head goes okay. And I see it happens so often where the youngest boys, like toddlers, will bop, and or young girls will jump in immediately, and the young boys are always timid. They're always like, "Oh, is this okay?" And I go, "Do you want to learn a dance move?" And I go, "No, I'm okay." And then you get moving, and then they start copying you, and then by the end they're jumping around and they're having a great time.
It's so
And
amazing.
yeah, and so it is that thing of I feel the same thing of there is an uncomfortability you do feel when, and just have an inherent sense of when you're starting to move against like a cultural grindstone in a way. But sometimes those pains are just growing pains, and the things about moving with that friction is sometimes it's a grindstone, and actually it makes you sharper. And it actually, it might be a little bit awkward for us, but actually that's why it's so important that we show that is okay to
validate it. Yeah.
yeah, to validate it. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's that's actually I've never thought about it in that sense, that's really, really lovely perspective to have, to see it almost as an example, and to be examples against sometimes some masculinity that inhibits behavior in young men. I think to be an example of
Mm.
that is something that is we should be proud of, and,
Yeah.
and when you're dancing in the park or when you're in your space,
Mm.
actually you're providing an example of
Mm.
someone doing what they want.
Yeah,
And
and not seeing dance as the antithesis of masculinity. I
yeah.
feel most like a man when I'm dancing.
Mm,
I feel that it does express my masculinity, or if maybe there's some femme vibes that day, maybe it expresses that as well. But I don't feel myself or unmanly. I feel like I feel that it realizes those things, even if that is in contradiction to the the perceptions of how other
mm,
people see manhood. I'm always just like, well, that's their issue. This makes me feel like a man when I move in these ways, and when I can
mm,
express myself physically like this. It's not in antithesis to those things. um I realize we've gone on for a hot minute. This has been
yeah.
such an amazing podcast, dude. We're just being like going and going, and
Seriously, I've just absolutely loved, like, it's been therapeutic, if I'm honest. Yeah.
we often talk about that, about how podcasts, it's like, hey, do you want to come do therapy in front of strangers?
It really is. It's perfect. It's so nice to actually also hear myself articulate things that I share with my tight knit group around me, and I think we all share tips and have this healthy competition. And sometimes the conversations I have with the dancers I live right next to, I think, wow, this
Mm,
is workshop material. This is stuff that we take for granted, So to invite me onto a platform to just kind of share my perspectives is really, really blessed, and to have people even listen to this is so flattering. So
It's been a pleasure to have you. Where is the best place for people to follow you? Is it Instagram, website? Where
I
on
think
social
yeah,
media?
I keep my Instagram as basically a portfolio, and I share everything that I'm doing on there. I share little videos in the studio and intimate things in my creative journey. So Joshua JS91. If you want to grab a follow, then
Mhm.
you can kind of come and see my vibes and stuff like
We'll
that. And
drop it in the link in the description below. And are there any like projects or things coming up that you're excited about that people should maybe keep an eye out for?
right now, everything is happening in on film in commercial. I hope everyone
Hmm.
really liked the Oculus. I did a VR Oculus advert that came out recently. That was really, really nice to do.
Oh, dope, dude. That's
So
awesome.
that all came out for Christmas. Some Johnny Walker adverts. So you'll probably see me on TV and doing little bits with ads and things like that.
Hmm.
In terms of live work, I will go back, I think, on the season on another season with Jasmin Vardimon, and we're doing a show on a revolving stage that I can't say much about.
Oh, cool.
So that's going to be a really, really cool show. So when that starts all happening again, once life just is less chaotic, um, that would be amazing. And we'll see what the actual live season is saying. And to all of the
Yeah.
dancers out waiting for live work to start up again and waiting for, you know, their research and development periods and their creation periods to start again. Don't sit there and just do nothing, Go and sort your representation out and go and see what
Mm.
you can do creatively, as I'm sure you already have been doing, and see what happens to your art when your art is removed from you. When what facilitates you as a creative is stripped, then who are you when you're sitting in a white room? Who are you as an artist? Maybe you're too much of an artist and you actually need to sit with yourself and understand yourself a bit. Or maybe you know yourself perfectly, and everything is in the analysis of the industry and the craft. Maybe you've let yourself slip and you need to get back into training, but sit with those white walls and learn something about yourself while the seats in the theaters get a little bit dusty, and we wait for everything to start up again. So
yeah. Well, thank you, audience, for joining us, and thank you, Josh, for being on the podcast. And we'll see you all next week.